Have you ever been in a situation where you really needed to get another person to see things the way that you see them? Have you ever needed to get the buy-in from a large group of people? Or have you ever just wanted to improve the results of your sales and advertising? Today, I want to jump into a series called How to Improve Your Chances of Selling Anything. It's Maven Monday, and let's jump right in. So the big idea here is that nothing happens without trust. Now that might sound like an obvious statement. We certainly don't do things or make decisions that we don't trust. But when it comes time to build our sales presentations or write our ads or build our websites, we often forget that it's impossible to ask somebody for money or time or to take them where we want them to go if we don't have trust built. And it's not that we don't understand that as a concept, it's just that we don't take the time to engineer a solution that makes trust happen when we're not having the benefit of that face-to-face relationship. So this is true for products and services. If you're trying to sell anything in a retail environment, it's true for ideas when you need to get people to buy into your idea, if you're leading a committee or you're trying to make change. And it's also true in just building relationships. Nothing happens without trust. But let's look at some ways that we go wrong when we think we're trying to build this trust. Old school knowledge tells us, well, you just need to educate people. Information will persuade them into, buying in. And what we forget is that information isn't really persuasive at all without a connection present. It's also not about a magic set of words that we choose. Overcoming objections and being witty and being polished up in our speaking, that alone doesn't do it either. And in fact, trust doesn't come at all from telling someone about us. And this is where so many sales and marketing activities get off the rails right from the very beginning. We forget that it's not about us at all. The customer isn't a moron, she's your wife, David Ogilvy told us. Very famous and legendary marketer. And what he was saying there is the customer is smarter than we probably pretend that they are. And if we forget that, then all we're typically doing in our sales and marketing activities is flapping our jaws. So let's look at how trust is actually built. The very first step, which is part one of what we want to talk about today, is demonstrating empathy and understanding for who you're talking to. So we all know this. We, in our own personal lives, the people we like, the people we want to spend the most time around, the people who are our best friends, our best coworkers, and ultimately the people that we trust are people who we feel like understand us. Now, there's a very specific way we can do this for both sales prospects that we're sitting across the table from, but also people that we've never met. And that's what we want to talk to today. And it's going to be by affirming their needs, pains, hopes, and fears. So this is demonstrating empathy, part one of a 3-week series for improving our sales of just about anything. And we're going to start off with the understanding that people don't buy when they understand you. They buy when they feel understood. And it doesn't matter what you're selling. It doesn't matter how big or how small. They don't buy when they understand you. They buy when they feel understood. In the words of Dean Graziosi, the best way I've ever heard that put. And the 4 questions we ask in this process is, who are we talking to? What are their needs, pains, hopes, and fears? And then in weeks 2 and 3, I want to talk about how we position our product to solve one of those. And then in the last week, we want to talk about what is the most reasonable next step for action and creating the most natural journey for your customer versus just saying, hey, jump in and let's buy today, because we know that's not always reasonable. So let's talk about who we're actually talking to. What does that mean? Well, historically, that would mean we would describe the customer by their basic demographics. How old are they? Male, female? What type of lifestyle do they have? What's their household income? And that's usually where a lot of marketing stops. Let's just target the person based on their attributes. But the real goal in understanding who we're really talking to is to get so serious about the person on the other side of the screen or the table that we could have a meaningful friend-based conversation with this person because we understand them so well. And there's a couple of key things we can do to cue them into the fact that we actually care about them and we're not just putting them in a box and marking them as a potential transaction for us. So here's how we do this. We dig really deep. We get obsessed with who these people are. And it doesn't matter what you're trying to sell. If you don't understand your person from an intimate level, down to you can pretty well guess what they're going to say or do next, then you don't have the proper equipment. You don't have the proper setup to be able to build this trust that we need to make the thing happen. So here's some things you can ask. How does this person spend their time? What do they do on an average weekday? What do they do on an average weekend? What do they value? Do they value expensive things? Do they value quality time? You could ask, what's their love language? Who do they most admire? What are the types of people that they would go to a conference and see? Who would they take advice from? Who do they watch on TV? Who do they not watch on TV? Who do they follow on social media? Who do they need to impress? Who in their life? Who is this pedestal of an ideal, aspirational person or image or personality that they want to be? What personality qualities do they admire? And already you can see with just 4 questions, if we start to ponder and look at context clues about what this person that we're selling might value, then we can start to lay the groundwork for how our product, the attributes of our product or our service or our commitment or our idea might complement those things. Let's keep going. So you might also ask, what's going on in their day right now, or what's going on in their day when you're going to interact with them? What other things are clouding their mind? And you're getting so specific about this that you might put a name to this person. You might say, well, my customer is very often Carol, and she's 35, and she has 2 kids. One's in school and one's still out of school. And you're asking all these things that start to let you get a real good picture of who you're talking to. What would they rather be doing than talking with you as the salesperson, or listening to your ad, or being on your website? What would they rather be doing? What companies and brands do they find attractive? Luxury brands or economy brands or somewhere in between? What kind of car do they drive? What kind of fashion brands do they find attractive, and why? That says a lot about them. It says, are they more interested in looks or style, or belonging to a crowd, or saving money? Every purchase decision somebody makes, even if it's not a big fancy brand, says something about them. And then you're ultimately asking, their life would be better if they only had blank. You could even go as far as to say, imagine what kind of music or bands this person listens to. What turns them off? What scares them? That's a big one. What do they find unattractive or fearful? And we're trying to get to this point where we can say we have the actual thing that they're looking to buy. We understand their life so well that we can guess whatever it is that they actually want to have happen. It's the old saying, nobody wants a half-inch drill bit. Nobody's buying the half-inch drill bit. What they really want is a half-inch hole. Or what they really, really want is the shelf hung in the garage, right? So your goal in understanding this person from a deep level is to understand what is their definition of the half-inch hole as it relates to your product. Most advertising tries to generalize, and even when they're doing a good job by being entertaining or by presenting information, it tries to talk to everybody without a clear picture of a single person. And when we use that generic language, we tend to think, oh, we're appealing to everybody, but really we're appealing to nobody. And so there's this fear that if we go too specific and we talk too directly to one type of customer that we have, we'll lose the other potential buyers. The truth is that, as we all know, generalized messages are boring, especially to the person we actually most want to win over. If you violate what we call the eavesdropper effect, which is this scientific and psychologically proven tendency for humans to be drawn to conversations, if you ignore that, then what you're doing is you're making your ads sound like ads, or your sales pitches sound like sales pitches. Whereas, really, it doesn't matter who you actually wrote the ad or the sales pitch to. If it's to a specific person about a specific person's needs, even the person who's not in line or does not meet that person's personality type will actually listen, because we're actually wired to listen to conversations when we know that they're personalized and directed to somebody. So the conclusion there is that if you're talking to everyone, no one will listen. But if you're talking to someone, everyone will listen, or they'll at least hear you. And so the goal is to make our ads and the things that we say so specific and so well thought out and so empathetic that the person and anybody around understands, wow, we have truly thought this through, and we truly are demonstrating that we have their best interest at heart, and we understand their life. And when we have that understanding, then we have their trust. And when we have their trust, we have permission to ask them to take the next step. So there's a second question that comes with demonstrating empathy, and that is, what are their needs, pains, hopes, and fears? So now that you know this person, you've got an ideal person in mind. You know what he or she is doing on a daily basis. You know basically what makes them tick or what their world looks like. You can say, okay, knowing that, what are their needs, pains, hopes, and fears as it relates to my product? And these are just a series of digging deeper questions of pondering, imagining, as it relates to saving time, hassle, or money, what does this person need in your product category? And yes, we're going to give him or her a pronoun. We're going to actually give him or her a name at the end of all this. But we're going to say, what is she needing right now that relates to saving her time, hassle, or money? What is she needing that relates to her having a trusted partner? What else is there out there that's not fulfilling her needs? And you're saying, you're just taking inventory of this. Knowing your product, knowing your space, knowing your category, what does this person need? Knowing your customer. Then we ask, what are the pains? Where are they feeling frustration? What's annoying? What's causing sadness or grief or financial stress? What does she wish she didn't have to do every day? How does she imagine her life would be different? And what is keeping her from her desired situation? Laying out all the areas and potential pain factors she's having. Because somebody is going to speak to them, and we want it to be you. The person that speaks to those will make her feel the most understood and validated, or him. This is not a guy or gal thing. It's just it's a human being thing. But we're using pronouns so that we can wire our brain to think and imagine this person very specifically. Then we say, what are our hopes? What are this person's hopes? What's a perfect world? What does she dream of? What's her perfect day? Looking for things that would be potential triggers for causing euphoria and causing just positive synapses to fire, and reminding her of the ideal life, or him. Again, not a manipulation thing specific to a gender. We're using that language just like we would refer to a real person, and it wires our brain into talking, thinking, writing, and marketing to real people instead of this fake person with a fake ad. Last, what are the fears? What's the worst thing that could happen? What are bad stories they've heard? Where have they failed in the past that might make them leery about moving forward? What's making them put this decision off? What are they most afraid of losing? Is it time? Is it money? Is it credibility? Is it just overall convenience? And when you understand that as it relates to your product, then you're prepared to start positioning your product with that, which is what we're going to cover next week. So a couple review. Never underestimate the power of using the word you in your mind when you're thinking of this person. When you use the word you, you're directly talking to, have you ever felt, or have you ever been frustrated by, or have you ever wondered, or have you ever been misled by. When you say that word you in your ad copy, it doesn't matter if it's TV or radio or print or social media, you immediately engage the person's brain that is a conversation, not instead of them putting you in this category of an ad. Never believe that any group or any one person is too small to talk to. If you just pick one that makes sense, the rest will hear you. And never try to tell your whole story, or never try to put the whole benefit of what you're selling into one sitting or one ad. This is the difference in making a campaign versus making a bunch of ads that don't connect. You're going to be linear, and over time, they're going to have the bigger idea about you. So don't try to cram too much in one ad. Always take the time to understand, ponder, and imagine the life of your customer at a very detailed level. We've given you the questions to be able to do that. Always try to locate a need, pain, hope, or fear that they're already feeling, and then speak to those needs, pains, hopes, and fears one at a time and in priority of importance to them. That's the first step of getting better at selling anything. If you apply this to your ads, to your sales presentations, even to your internal meetings, even in your internal relationships, maybe even your marriage, and you go through and you demonstrate empathy and understanding of a person, you will have a much better chance of earning their trust and therefore a much better chance of earning their sale. Have a great day, guys. We'll see you next week.